What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Lou again, and I'm back with another video. In today's video, I want to start up a segment that I like to call Word Wednesday. And in this segment, it's going to be about words that we use on a daily basis, that we don't think much about, right? Their definitions, the way we use it, and how a lot of the words we use, when we think about it, they don't make sense. Somebody gave us a definition and we ran with it, contrary to our own common sense, right? So the word that I want to start with is depression. Now that's what I was doing with the keyboard. It's an experiment that we're going to get back to in just a second, but let's go to the definition of depression, right? All right. The word depression. In a state of general unhappiness or despondency. Again, in a state of general unhappiness or despondency. Now, what does despondency mean? Just so you know, I'm pulling it right from Google. I'm not making these words up. A state of low spirits caused by loss of hope or courage. Right? Okay. So that's what it means to be depressed. Right? When you look at the word depressed, okay, it seems, when you think about it by itself, it seems, okay, fine. It's just the definition. But let's look at depressed and its derivatives, the things that make up the word. And, other words similar to it. And then you'll see that being depressed doesn't make sense. You should be depressed, right? By the definition, it doesn't make sense. But by the definition that I'm going to show you, it would make sense for you to be depressed, right? It would be a healthy thing if you were depressed, as opposed to what your doctor would tell you, right? Let's look at the word pressed. The word pressed. Flattened, shape, or smoothed by the application of pressure, typically from an iron. So again, flattened, shaped, or smoothed by applying of pressure, typically from an iron, right? So that's what I was doing with the keyboard. I pressed it. Simple enough, right? But if you look at the word, it makes sense. So why doesn't depressed make sense, right? Because if you're applying pressure, again, you have to remove it, right? That's what we do in our slang all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's what they call slang. But technically, when you're sad or you're unhappy, you should be pressed. Right? When you're experiencing those feelings of despondency, you should be pressed. There's pressure somewhere in your life that's being applied to you that you want removed. Now, let's look up the word D. D. The beginning part of depression. Forming verbs and their derivatives. First one, it says down, away. Second one, added to verbs and their derivatives, denoting removal or reversal. And the example is de-aerate, right? So, D, denoting removal or reversal. I pressed it, which is the application of pressure. I should technically depress it, which is the removal or the reversal of the application of pressure. Which means pressed. This key is experiencing the pressure of being pressed. It's pressed right now. It's sad. It should be, at least. It should be depressed. Now, since I looked up the dictionary definition, I also want to look up the definition of pressed based on the internet slang. Upset, bothered. That's why I used the word pressed, right? A derivative of depressed. So now let's personify this keyboard and go, it's upset now because I'm applying the pressure. It's bothered by my finger being all in its face, right? This keyboard can say, yo, I'm pressed right now. Right? Our natural slang, yo, I'm pressed right now. I'm pressing the keyboard. If this keyboard wants to experience the removal of the pressure, the D part of the word, I would remove my finger. It's now depressed. Right? So when I pressed it, it was feeling those feelings of unhappiness, despondency, the lack of hope. It doesn't know when I'm going to move my finger. Right? So it's pressed. Our natural slang. Upset. Bothered. Now it's depressed. It's free again. Now this is why I say the word doesn't make sense. Depressed is the feeling of unhappiness and being like bothered, the state of despondency. But that's pretty much the same definition as pressed. So why did they flip the word? I'll get to that in a minute. But just another example. We're going to look at two other words similar to depressed and pressed. The first one being hard pressed. Right? First definition, closely pursued. Second definition, burdened with urgent business. Right? Let's look at what burden means. Right? Burden. Oh, it's not giving me the... Why did it do all this extra stuff? It just says load heavily. That's what it says. Load heavily, right? I thought it would have a better definition. But, yeah. Right? What is the example that it used? Oh, actually, there's one under it. It says cause someone hardship or distress. Right, that's this one right here. Right, it says to cause someone hardship or distress. Right? So, now I could hard press this keyboard. I'm all spitting this stuff. But I'm causing this keyboard hardship and distress. Now, if I want to depress it while it's being hard pressed, boom, I've removed the weight. It should be relieved. Okay, because I reversed it, right? I reversed the hardship. I reversed the stress. Now, I want to show you oppressed. Subject to harsh and authoritarian treatment. Then it says underneath, as one of the examples, the liberation of an oppressed people, which we are, based on the definition of depression. Right? And I'm going to explain that in a minute as well. So now, I'm going to oppress this keyboard because I'm the authoritarian figure. I'm the authoritative figure right now. I have control over whether this keyboard, this key right here, is free or not. I'm applying the pressure on it. Now I will make it feel depressed. Boom. Right? Simple enough. Why do I keep going back to the keyboard? Because you're like, okay. But now we use another example where the words fit perfectly. They fit perfectly, including the D and the word that it's going to become with, right? And that is the word stress. Right? What does it mean to stress? Definition of stress. A state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. So again, let's personify the keyboard. You can do this with anything that you could press, literally. Right? I'm just using the keyboard because it's available to me. All right? Stressed. Right? Let's pretend it has a mind, and I'm pressing down on its mind. I'm causing mental tension caused by a difficult situation. It can't remove my finger. Right? You ain't got no hands, homie. Right? You can't remove my finger. Now you're in a stressful position. Now, remember what D means, because this keyboard is about to experience de-stress. I've reversed it. I've reversed the stress. Now it's de-stressed. That's the next word we're going to look up. I thought I had it up already, but I did not. We're going to go back. We can do it. No. Boom. De-stress. Relax after a period of work or tension. Right? That's literally the reversal of stress. So why when applied to stress, right? De-stress. It makes sense. Stress is that tension, that mental tension or anything of the sort. And then it de-stress. The key can now relax after a period of tension. But when you apply it to press, right, it's experiencing the weight, right? The pressure. Why doesn't it apply when you de-stress? Because now it's de-stress, but that would mean it's feelings of unhappiness or despondency. That doesn't make any sense. So if it's pressed, it's still going through hardship. If it's depressed, it's still going through hardship. When it should be experiencing the relaxation from the removal of the tension, the D part, the reversal of it being pressed. Right? I'm not pressed about this person. I'm not bothered, but I'm bothering the key right now. So that's like saying, I'm pressed. You're bothered. Then when I reverse it, you're depressed. But the meaning of depressed remained the same. It's still bothered. The key would still be bothered. You see? Doesn't make any sense. Now, I say all of these things to say, right? You experience depression, but it's backwards. When you're experiencing that tension, you are being pressed. Just like our natural slang. This is what I meant earlier by the things that are common sense to us and we say it naturally. We don't think about it when a doctor tells you, oh, you're depressed. When they should tell you, you're pressed. Because you know what they do? When you are depressed by their definition, they then give you an antidepressant. Now we got to look up anti. Boom, anti. Opposed to or against. So, based on the word, when your doctor gives you, let's see if I got it. An antidepressant, it went back to another word. When your doctor gives you an antidepressant, which is used to alleviate depression. What does alleviate mean? That was the word that was on first, right? Just like I said, less severe. You're supposed to make something less severe. So if I'm pressing down on this and I depress it, isn't that less severe? But that's not the meaning of depression. Depression is actually you're still unhappy. So you're pressed, just like our slang would suggest. But your doctor tells you you're depressed. Right? So technically, if you went to your doctor and you were being bothered, you felt bothered, you would be pressed. But the truth is, the agenda behind depression is they don't want you to be free of the pressure. That is simply what it is. You're pressed. Now you should be, by your logic, depressed. But they don't want you free of the pressure. They are anti-depressant. They are against you being free. They are against you being depressed. They are against you having that pressure removed, alleviated. You see? It's supposed to alleviate depression, right? But if they want you to feel pressed, they will just reverse the word. That way, when you come to them for an antidepressant, it's telling you in the word. They are anti you being depressed. Words are spells. This is why I started this segment, Word Wednesday. Right? They might tell you, oh, your serotonin is low. And you, right? Because you went to them saying that you had depression. Right? No, you were pressed. If they told you that you were pressed, right, you would know you should be depressed. And you would understand that if they gave you an antidepressant, then that means they are against you having your pressed feelings alleviated. Right? That's why it's a system, right? Ever notice you get on an antidepressant, you don't get off because it's not healing anything. It's not fixing anything. Right? How did you get on it? Maybe they told you something as stupid as your serotonin was low. That's not a real thing. Right? Maybe your blood serotonin was low. Now, serotonin is a chemical messenger that has some important jobs in the brain and around the body. It is involved in controlling your mood. Low serotonin levels in the brain are thought to contribute to depression. Or we're going to call it pression. Because the D is not thick, right? Now, look at this article here. There is no evidence that depression is caused by low serotonin levels. You see? Finds comprehensive review. This is a review from the ucl.ac.uk, right? So it's a University College of London, right? That's where I got it from. So they said that there is no evidence. So why did they tell you that you were depressed? Because you came to them saying you were depressed, and they just ran with it. They said, "Oh, you don't even know what the word you just used meant." So now I can capitalize on this opportunity to administer this pill to you, and then you take the pill, and what happens? You are now pressed. You become lessened because what your brain does is it goes, "Oh, what I was naturally producing, there's something being put there in its way." So let's say normally you would be at 100%. What happens the first time that you take the antidepressant is it's taking 50%. It's taking up the space. So it's adding something that wasn't there, right? You might have been at 100%, but hey, their brain was producing normally. But your own feelings, your heart feelings was just like, yo, I'm not feeling it today. Your dog might have died, right? You just got sad. But you told them you were depressed because you get bombarded with the word depression all the time and equate it with sadness, right? Then they give you this antidepressant, which is against you alleviating your pressure, right? You put that in there. You haven't alleviated any pressure. What your brain does is then it alleviates the pressure. It goes, there is an added pressure on top of what I was already sad about. Because now there's a foreign substance. So let's say you was at 100%. You got sad. It dropped you down to 50%, right? And then you added this extra pressure, right? Your brain goes based on your emotion in a sense. So eventually it was going to come back to its normal state. You're just being so bombarded by pressure of life, being pressed. You're being bombarded by being pressed every day, bills and things like that. That is going, once I alleviate the bills, because right, once you get money and stuff, you're like, oh snap, I'm good. What was I stressed for? What was I so pressed about? Right? Because now you can buy things that'll remove the stress. You can do things that'll remove the stress, right? Once you find another outlet to remove your sadness, you should be depressed, right? The pressure is gone. But what the pill does is it weighs you down. So say the pressure of life brought you down to 50%, right? But normally your brain is producing what is required for you to stay at 100, right? So you're now down at 50% just because the pressure's there. So normally it's accounted for. That pressure of life is accounted for in the 50%, right? It's down there. It's like, okay, if I wasn't being pressed down, I would already be at 100. What happens then, the pill comes in, the antidepressant, them against you being pressed, or them against you being depressed, right? And the pill comes and presses down. But it adds the feeling of, oh, snap. The placebo effect of you going, yeah, I'm feeling better. A placebo, a harmless pill, medicine, or procedure prescribed for the psychological benefit to the patient than for any physiological effect. So pretty much a substance that has no therapeutic effect used as a control in testing a new drug. Right? So your mind gives it a placebo effect that the drug that they put in is supposed to free you. So your mind is doing that. It's creating the missing pieces. But what the drug is doing is suppressing you. You ever notice your doctor tell you, oh, you take this antidepressant, you may, for the next 30 days or 90 days or 60 days, however many they tell you, you may continue to experience these symptoms of suicide, thoughts of suicide and things like that. Don't they tell you that? Your suicidal thoughts may increase. That's because that's what the drug is for. It is used to keep you pressed. Now, your brain gets adjusted to being at a level that it wasn't at before. It's like I was at 50. You put me at 100. But remember, you were already being pressed by life. So right, you naturally at 100. Life is pressing you down to 50. And then your brain is like, but this is normal. You're going to be pressed by life. And then you add this other one that brings you back to, it's unnatural, it's foreign. Your brain is going to try to bring you back down to 50%, where you're now at 100%. You're feeling good at 100%, but it's a fake 100%, right? That extra 50 is fake. So what your brain is doing is going, I'm not supposed to be. Naturally, I'm supposed to be. Given the circumstances, yes, my dog died. I'm right where I needed to be. Your brain then goes, okay, I have to bring you back down to 50 since I'm at 100. Then that's what it does. It goes, okay, since we have a foreign substance that's going to replace me, you don't need me. And so it stops producing that 50. So now even if you're at 100%, your brain stopped producing the 50, so that 100% falls. Now you're back at 50, the way you were supposed to be. You see? But now you'd feel like you can't reach 100% if you stop taking it, because now if you remove the 50 and your brain is no longer producing that 50 that it naturally would when you're just in your everyday life stresses, it goes, okay, you didn't need me. You kind of overexerted yourself by adding this extra 50 when this 50% was normal. So I'm going to remove it. That way, we could go back to normal. Then once you remove the pill, the effects go off. Now you're at 0. And your brain is no longer producing that 50%. Right? And they are anti you being depressed. Right? They are for you being pressed. So now you're stressing even more without the pill. You see, you can't manage without the pill because your brain is no longer producing that 50% where you should naturally be at. Because it already calculated, it already took in the calculations for life's natural pressures. It's going, okay, if this pressure wasn't there, I would already be at 100%. But this is a normal pressure. So now this pill removed its function. This is why you can't get off of these pills when they tell you you're depressed. And this is why I say you should be depressed. You should be alleviated of the pressure. But the pill that they give you, the antidepressant, the anti-you being free, is there to keep the pressure there. And then you need them to keep the pressure there for you. Right? Because you don't understand the words we use on an everyday basis. But that's why I was making this video, to show you. Pressed, right? Pressure. I'm going to free you from pressure. Oppressed, depressed. Hard pressed, depressed, right? I'm reversing the hard press, the burden. I'm reversing the pressed, the pressure. I'm reversing the oppressed. My people being free, I want to reverse that. So we depress the oppressed. You see? But they have to trick you into pushing their agenda by using the word press, by flipping the word press. In the same way now, a vaccine doesn't have to cure anything, which was the definition of vaccine. That's what the next generation is going to have to deal with. Take this vaccine that you're going to have to take boosters for every single time. No, it's pushing an agenda. So be careful of the words you use and understand that if you've gone to your doctor and you told them, oh, you're depressed, there is no way that they can actually find out if your brain is producing the right chemicals. They've lied to you. Just like the UCL showed you, the University College of London, it's bullshit, to put it quite bluntly. You should be depressed. And when life presses you, you are pressed when it pressures you. So be careful of the words you use.